well, Hegan Kogan again in A10, and now we talked about the United States declaring war, getting into this war. Now we
It's
have to
on
get like Donkey Kong. Yeah, it's definitely on like Donkey Kong. Now it's how are we gonna win it? And you know, I know with you and with me, I mean, normally it's like, what are you gonna need to win a war? And you write down the list. There's there's bullets, ammunition, there's food, there's morale, medical supplies,
helmets.
The list can go on, but I think the way we decided to do it is that I break it down into the B's. You're gonna need the bullets, the beans, bucks, Band-Aids, and this is what you're gonna need. And we're gonna go into like what each B is gonna mean. We're gonna make it nice for you in a nice category, so this way it'll help out. So when a country enters a war, there are many moving parts that need to happen in order for one side to be successful. Troops serving in a combat zone have many needs such as food, equipment, and weapons. In order to be successful, to help you remember what a military needs to be successful, the needs can be broken down into 3 B's: bullets, beans, and the bucks. We're going to go through what each one means and what's going to go in each category. So when we're looking at the bullets, this is anything that's going to support the military effort. Soldiers, bullets, ammunition, military equipment, anything that goes along with bullets, we'll go into that nice, neat graphic organizer. When we get to the beans, this is going to mean food. Anything that's going to help feed the military. Finally, when we're getting into bucks, we're talking about the money. We're talking about making it rain. How are you going to continue to support that military effort? And probably the most important one out of all of them is the money, because if you don't have the money, you can't sustain your fighting troops abroad. So we'll look at couple of documents to get us into each one, and that'll kind of help us go along. So we're definitely in the first one with the bullets.
He's looking at me.
I know, you love this one, that's why I put it up there for you.
He's looking at me. Yeah, first thing we're gonna need is troops.
Exactly.
We need soldiers. It's not like, and if you think this, get rid of the myth that like the day war gets declared, we're sending over our army to go and fight. It's like we now have to mobilize the army, we've got to train the army, we've got to supply the army. First thing and foremost, we need people. And there's 2 ways for you to join the army at the time.
You can either volunteer
or you could be voluntold.
Exactly. So this is, hey, let's get people to volunteer.
Yeah. You want volunteers.
Yes, you do.
You want people who say, I love my country, I want to fight for freedom, I want to defend this country because I'm going to go the extra mile.
There's more of a buy-in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Where if you're voluntold, to fight.
Yes.
And if you don't understand what we're saying, it's like the government's just basically saying, hey, I know you didn't volunteer, but now you're in the army.
Which brings us to this.
Yes.
Because it's your civic duty, pretty much.
Yeah. Boys, in case you didn't realize this, when you turn 18, you are required by law to register for the draft. Mr. Heeg had to do it. I had to do it. Our fathers had to do it. Our grandfathers had to do it. It is constitutionally required by us.
And it's law.
Yeah. If you don't do it, there are several things that could happen to you, negative ramifications that could happen to you. We're not going to get into them now.
But looking at this one, this is, when you talk about that registering for selective service for the draft, we won't delve too deeply into this because there's a lot you can go with, but this is what your registration card looked like at one point.
Yep.
This is John Wallace Jones. And there's a bunch of biographical information he has to put on there. For example, his birth date, where you're from, his age when he had to fill this out. He was 24, lives in Orient, New York, so that's all the way out on the east end of the Long Island. He's single. What else do we have here? It has his address. What is his occupation? Farming. And then what do we have over here? Body type.
Tall, medium, or short. He's medium, slender, medium, or stout.
Right.
He's medium.
Now, when it comes to, and we won't get too deeply into this, when it comes to the fact that this particular gentleman here is a farmer, this is what he had to, this is what he had to fill out. Going down the road, could he possibly have been excused or wind up getting a waiver because you need food to win the war? There's possibilities, and that gets really, really deep. Unfortunately, with this guy though, that's definitely not the case.
Yeah.
Because that you also needed him in the manufacturing industry as well. So you were able to get waivers in certain instances. That wasn't the case with him. So when we get into the bullets, then what we just looked at, we are now going to enact a draft.
The Selective Service Act. You are again, you're required by law to register when you turn 18. You have I forget 18 months or something like that to do it.
I was way overboard when I registered.
Yeah, you have like 18 months, and then but like what does happen is if you haven't registered for the draft, if you're applying for certain jobs, that will raise a flag.
Well, loans,
yeah,
student loans.
That will raise a flag and could get you denied for certain employment or for loans.
Right. That's what kind of hurt me.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going for a government job, and at the time it was NYPD, it's like, all right, gentlemen, you know, everybody's there day one.
So basically, what Mr. Heeg is saying is, I'm more patriotic than him because I registered for the draft on my 18th
on that day.
birthday.
They used to mail you like a
forget the fact that he like served in Iraq and Kuwait. Forget that.
He's got it. He's got it. I think I got it in a postcard when I was 18, and then I like frisbeed it, you know, because I was that stupid. But again, and of course the age has changed. You know, during this time, it's like 21 to 30. I'm sure during World War II it changed, and of course today, you know, you're talking like anywhere between 18 to
27. I think it is today.
Really? Okay. So you're required to. This is your civic duty, just like serving on a jury.
Yep.
We also wanted the War Industries Board. Now you're starting to see the government become more involved. This is, they can tell factories what they had to make, how much to make, you know, how much to charge.
It's like, oh, you make nails?
Yeah.
Well, you already have all of the equipment necessary to make other small pieces of metal that we might need in this war, like bullets.
Right.
So we're gonna order you. This is actually something, I forget the exact law, War Production Act it was called.
Something
that Trump and now Biden have mobilized, forcing companies to help make hand sanitizers or produce the vaccine for us. You know, it's something that they can do.
Now, as a company, can you say no? Not really. Can you resist? Yeah, you can. But here's the thing: at the end of the day, you're a company. You're in business to make money.
Yeah.
So can you be a pain in the neck and resist? Yeah. But the thing is that this is where the demand is. It's for wartime goods.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making wartime goods, you're going to make money. Similar to what Mr. Kogan was bringing up with the hand sanitizer, and I think they even did that with the masks as well. So.
Somebody like a Ford Motor Company might be able to easily produce tanks.
And that's what he wound up doing.
Yep.
He wound up making, like, for example, ambulances.
Yep.
So we have 4 million men and women. They wind up joining the armed forces. We also have Native Americans, African Americans, and other groups enlisted. I think this is something.
But don't worry, they'll be segregated.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
Don't forget historical context now.
Yeah.
That we're going to see a completely separate group of African American fighting forces, and white Americans didn't even want to fight with them.
No.
So they went off and fought.
French loved them.
Yep.
The French loved them.
Yep.
And this is always something that's in the background, and it's always something that's interesting because when Mr. Kogan's bringing up historical context, and when you look at how horribly that these groups were treated, when it came time to step up, to volunteer, they stepped up. While many who, if you had to walk a mile in their shoes, maybe would not have.
Yeah.
So they also had a war labor board. Again, we have to make sure that people are happy, that they're working, that they're not on strike. If you have certain industries that are on strike, that's going to be a problem. So this war labor board winds up settling disputes over hours, wages, and they also tried to prevent strikes.
Yeah, it was kind of like no more collective bargaining during
Yeah.
the war. The War Labor Board, if there was a union dispute between factory owners and workers, the War Labor Board would kind of be like, dude, you're paying them $10 more.
Right.
Like, you guys are working 3 hours more. Get over it. And you kind of had
This war labor board, like a little comedy, just went in my head. You could see the stakeholders or participants coming with this situation, and the boys like, no, this is how it is.
Yeah, pretty much.
Almost like that Seinfeld episode, No Soup for You. Next, which is going to bring us now to this guy, Herbert Hoover.
such a tragedy.
It is a tragedy.
Herbert Hoover was like the man of World War I. And he rides that wave of popularity and of success as a politician to the presidency, where unfortunately for him, he falls flat on his
Helps to
face.
feed the troops, helps to feed most of Europe even after the war as well. I mean, his career, I mean, he was set. And what he's going to wind up becoming the head of is the Food Administration here. So just a quick excerpt from this letter here. I believe that I believe the American woman has only to understand the food needs of this nation, of the Allies, and in fact of the entire world, in order to enlist her immediate and intelligent support. So again, when you're looking at what you need to win a war, it's all hands on deck. You're not going to have women fighting on the front lines, although you did have women serving, but even the women who are at home, you can do something, and it's going to tie to food. It stands to reason that her first duty is to the members of her family, They must have all the food they require to keep them in good health and capable of performing efficiently their daily tasks. In confidence, I turn to her so to conduct her affairs and so to influence the activities of a community that we may largely pay for the war as we go along out of our savings in food and in human production.
Now again, historical context.
Right.
1915, 1916, 1917, 1918. The American woman doesn't have the right to vote yet.
Right.
The American woman's role in society
Right.
was the housewife.
Right.
The cook, the clean, the care. So Herbert Hoover is basically reaching out to the American woman saying, hey, look, you're in charge of the home. You're in charge of like what your family's eating this night. Do your part.
Right.
Instead of getting the 1.5 pound steak, get the 1 pound steak. Whatever.
I mean, again, another group that has not been giving its proper respect or proper
exactly.
That has been neglected. When you look at Native Americans, African Americans, and women, and of course, how are you going to get the word out? Without Twitter, posters.
Yeah, and I'm sure you do the same thing in your class. That food is a weapon of war. Not only for the man's ability to fight,
yeah,
the caloric needs of a soldier, but their willingness to fight, what we refer to as their morale.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I thought you said it.
Yeah.
Food and morale, very,
Yes.
very closely linked.
And like how the British soldiers were given 3 strips of bacon every day
Sure.
for breakfast. Like, just the smell of that. Cooking. It's like you're in the trenches, you're miserable, and it's like, bacon?
I wake up, I smell bacon, it's like, oh, it's Sunday.
It's going to be a good day.
Just
it's going to be a good day.
That it does to your
Yes.
mental psyche. But again, the posters that they used, you're combining food now with war. It's going to win the war. So defeat the Kaiser and his U-boats. Victory depends on which fails first, food or frightfulness, eat less wheat. So again, you're talking about conserving at homes. This way you have more for the war effort.
I feel like they missed out on like alliteration in the war because you get to like the wheatless Mondays and meatless Tuesdays. It should have been meatless Mondays and wheatless Wednesdays.
Right.
Like they should have been.
I'm sure there was a reason for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was a reason. Because it's not like you and I are marketing or advertising experts.
I know.
However,
the alliteration was right there for you.
There had to be a reason for it. And just like trying to wrap your head around it, it's like, all right, well, you couldn't do that on, it would have made more sense on Fridays maybe,
Yeah.
All right, so food will win the war.
Who are we speaking to here?
I was speaking to immigrants.
Yeah.
Yep, there we go.
Do your part coming over, peoples.
Do your part. So you came here seeking freedom, you must now help to preserve it. Wheat is needed for the Allies, waste nothing. And again, we're looking at, more and more of these, food's gonna win.
Yeah, go back for a second.
Yeah, sure.
I got it. Every garden, a munition plant. That people started to plant what were called victory gardens.
Yes.
So if you can grow 10 tomatoes on your own, that's 10 less tomatoes that a farmer has to sell to you and can send over to Europe.
And spoiler alert, you're gonna see that in World War II as well.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because it worked. Buy fresh fish, save the meat. Again, when you're talking about the calories, we are saving you, you save food. Again, food will win the war, and it goes on. So let's talk food.
Yep.
Getting hungry now. Herbert Hoover, as we said, when we look at how he established himself and really set a pace for a great political career, this is where it starts. He felt that food is going to win the war. Crop prices are going to increase. So the farmer, probably for the first time in this curriculum, and probably I shouldn't say the only time, he's going to be doing well. Grow.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, exactly. People were planting victory gardens as well. We saw that. Wheatless Mondays, meatless Tuesdays. I mean, again, this will always bother us. We need to find out about that. I keep saying that, but so that's pretty much what you're doing, and it kind of hints that.
We got the beans.
Now we need the bucks. Now you need the money. So everybody's doing their part. And here's something else where everybody can do their part as well. You're going to buy Liberty bonds.
So basically, what a Liberty bond is, what any kind of savings bond is it's a promissory note.
Yep.
It's I'm going to give Mr. Heeg $50 today, and then he's going to give me $75 5, 10, 15 years from now.
When it matures.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a quick way of the government getting money, and then the person, it's almost like an investment. Not almost, it is.
Well, I mean, for like our time period, I know with our students, for us growing up, a savings bond was your typical grandparent gift.
And it was the worst thing ever.
It was.
It's like, wow, they gave me $100 in 7 years from now.
Yeah.
Or like, but yet, I remember I took all those savings bonds
So
when I
did I.
graduated college,
Yep.
cashed them out,
Needed them.
and like they continue to mature.
Right.
After their maturity date, it was like I got like $7,000 or something.
My grandparents didn't know what to buy. I mean,
Yeah.
here's a savings bond. You know, I can get you Rock'em Sock'em robots today, which will break.
We
or-
actually, when Sean was born,
Yeah.
we bought like $100 savings bonds.
Sure.
It only cost us a couple $100. Yet when it matures, he's gonna have $5,000.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it is smart. It's
Yeah.
a smart part to it. I mean, probably most grandparents today are just like, here's an Amazon card. Shut up, you know. But again, you know, this is going to be money that's needed by the government, and where they're going to get it from? From you. Could they raise taxes? Yeah, but
there's a benefit to this.
yeah,
It's you're willingly giving up the money, knowing it will be returned to you, and a bond is 100% backed. Like the government has to pay the bond, the loan back to.
And again, when we talk about volunteer versus voluntold, you know, this is your patriotic duty. Of course, there's more of a buy-in when you're, you know, rather than taxes, where
Yep.
you're going to gripe about it as well. And again, you know, when we look at the bucks, Liberty bonds, this is sold by the government to help raise money for the war. You had to get the word out, so you had 4-minute men, usually like celebrities and people who were famous, who were going to get the word out, who were going to urge Americans to go and make those sacrifices to buy.
Usually on street corners.
Yeah.
You know, standing on a box. You know, giving these quick little 4-minute speeches, telling people to do their civic duties.
Yeah.
To do their patriotic duties. Okay, you're maybe not fit to fight. Maybe you're a 55-year-old grandmother. Maybe you're a 13-year-old kid.
You can grow
maybe
a
you're the
victory
paper
garden.
boy.
Yeah, you can
You
grow a
know,
victory garden,
Yeah,
yeah.
do what you can to help the war effort.
Bullets, the beans, and the bucks.
Boom!
Couldn't get any more easier than that, I think. We're
No,
missing anything?
No, good.
All right, good.
Wait till
Now-
we get the babes during
now
World War
on-
II.
Yeah. Thank you for watching.